How's the infertility treatment going? Oh, wait, you don't even have a partner anymore, so what's the point of doing infertility treatment? The one who said those terrible words at the company's anniversary party was my ex-husband Ken, who looked down on me for being infertile, had a child with his affair partner, and then dumped me out of the blue. That's a pretty harsh thing to say just because we broke up. Oh, is this the infamous infertile lady? Yeah, that's her. My ex-wife, who couldn't even fulfill her role as a woman. The two of them started laughing at me. If that's the attitude you're gonna take, then I've got something to say too. So, how are things going for you? How's work? Of course things are going great. After all, it's me we're talking about. Oh, really? That's great to hear. But you might not be able to say that after tomorrow. Huh? What do you mean? When I told my ex-husband the truth, his face turned pale. My name is Kelly Smith. I work for a cosmetics company. I married Ken when I was 32. It is considered a bit late by most people's standards. The main reason I didn't get married until I was 32 was probably because I was working too much. I started my current job when I graduated college at 22. Back then, I was desperate to be recognized quickly. I've always been competitive and had a much higher drive to improve than most people. I volunteered for big projects and worked hard. And that gave me the energy to live. I often traveled all over the country for work, had no time to play, and sometimes worked from morning till midnight without a break. It might sound like a terrible company, but I loved my job and never felt it was a burden. However, people around me would disguise their criticism as concern, saying things like, "You need to get married soon, or you won't be able to have kids. Do you really enjoy working so much, and a life dedicated to work doesn't sound fun?" Honestly, I was fed up. Everyone has their own values, so I'd rather be left alone, but if I argue back, I'll just get more nagging. Whenever this kind of talk came up, I would force a smile and quickly leave. Having poured most of my life into my work, I managed to get a decent position at a young age in the company. I finally started getting regular breaks and had some leisure time in my personal life. By this time, I was already 32 years old. At this point, I had been single for 15 years. I didn't have a strong desire to get married, but the idea of being single forever was a bit sad. I hoped to meet a good partner someday. That's when I met my husband, Ken. We both loved reading and met at a book event for a popular author. Since the author was well known, there was a long line, and the wait was quite lengthy. Ken, who was standing behind me, started talking to me out of boredom. "It's quite a wait, isn't it? Do you often come to these events?" "Yeah, it's been about 30 minutes. This is my first time, Egg. I happen to have the day off from work." "Really? Me too. It's my first time as well. By the way, which of the novels is your favorite?" "Well, I think I liked that novel in 2013 the best." "Me too. It's my favorite novel." Ken talked with sparkling eyes. We hit it off, chatting enthusiastically about how moving certain lines were or how surprising the ending was. While talking to Ken, my turn to get a signature came up quickly. As we were about to leave after getting our books signed, Ken said, "I had a great time talking with you today. If you don't mind, could I get your contact info?" Thinking it was fate, I gladly agreed, and we made plans to meet again. Our first date was filled with lively conversation, and I had a really fun time. As we went on more dates, I got to know Ken better. He was 5 years younger than me, and worked in sales at a cosmetics company, just like me. However, he liked to keep work and private life separate, so he didn't want to talk much about work in his personal time. I felt the same way. It was nice that we had a shared hobby, and we had a lot in common, such as being only children and not having been in a relationship for a long time. I felt a sense of closeness with him. Gradually, I started feeling at ease around Ken. He had a bit of an airhead side and often forgot things, but I found that part of him endearing and cute, fitting for someone younger. For someone who hadn't had any time to play before, dating Ken was refreshing and fun. I was quite excited about being in a relationship again after so long. About 6 months after meeting Ken, he said, "I want you to meet my parents." What? I want to marry you, Kelly. Is that okay? Although I was surprised by the sudden proposal, I loved Ken and had no reason to refuse. The discussion progressed quickly, and I agreed to meet his parents. You're really beautiful. I never thought I'd see the day Ken would introduce a girlfriend. He must really like you. I'm happy to see Ken so happy. Please take care of him. Ken's kind parents showered me with compliments, making me feel both happy and embarrassed. Ken, looking proud, said, "She doesn't look 5 years older than me, right? She's a beauty." It might have sounded a bit rude, but I knew Ken meant it as a compliment. I was relieved that the meeting with his parents went smoothly. Life with Ken was peaceful and calm. However, changes were coming our way. Kelly, don't you want to have kids? Ken asked hesitantly, probably mindful of my age, as I was already 35. Kids. Of course, I didn't dislike children, and I did want to become a mother someday. But at my age, pregnancy and childbirth come with higher risks. Seeing me at a loss for words, Ken looked worried and said, "Is it not okay? Your health comes first, Kelly. If you think it's too much, we can stop any time." Then he pulled out a bunch of brochures for fertility clinics from his bag and showed them to me. Ken, who usually wasn't good at researching things, had gone to great lengths because he really wanted kids. He had carefully selected the information with me in mind. Seeing my husband like this made me want to have our child for him too. That's how I started feeling. No, it's not bad. Yeah, let's start trying for a baby. Really? Thank you. Let's do our best. The next week, we went to the hospital and had thorough examinations. The results were to come later, with about a week in between. During that time, we were both a bit restless. Finally, the test results came in. I'm basically fine. They just said I need to get a rubella vaccination. I see. As for me, they said I have polycystic ovary syndrome. What's that? It means I have more eggs than most people, which makes ovulation and getting pregnant harder. My husband became visibly downcast and stopped responding. His feelings were easy to read. Seeing him like that, I hurried to reassure him. Oh, but you know, they said a lot of people have this condition. With hormone treatment to make it easier to ovulate, we have a good chance of getting pregnant. Thank goodness. So, we'll start treatment from now on. I was a bit downcast hearing about my ovulation issues, but I was relieved to hear that pregnancy was still possible. So, we started hormone treatment and officially began trying for a baby. Given my age, we decided to try timing-based methods a few times, and if that didn't work, we'd move on to artificial insemination or IVF. However, even after 3 months of carefully timing things as advised by the doctor, I still wasn't pregnant. I wonder what's wrong. It's okay. They say being pessimistic is the worst thing. Let's take it easy and not rush. Yeah, you're right. At first, he encouraged me like this and was very supportive, even driving me to and from the hospital. But as 6 months passed, things began to change. My in-laws started expressing their desire for grandchildren. It began with a phone call from my mother-in-law. Hey, Kelly. I don't mean to be rude, but you're over 30 now, right? Are you thinking about having kids? We've started fertility treatment, but it's not going well. I see. Sorry for being insensitive since you're already seeing a doctor. But you know, Ken has always been an only child and felt lonely, so he needs at least 2 kids. Do it for him and for us. With that, she hung up the phone. Even though my mother-in-law only had 1 child, she should understand how hard it is to have siblings. It's difficult enough to have just 1 child. The following month and the month after that, she continued to express her desire to see her grandchild. When I was alone, I would let out a deep sigh. I talked to my husband about how his mom was pressuring me for a grandchild, but he just laughed it off. Mom said that? Well, I guess it can't be helped. You're getting older, Kelly, so she's probably worried. If we have a baby soon, that should solve everything. He might not have meant any harm, but his words pierced my heart. Despite this, we continued trying for a baby for a while, but there was no sign of pregnancy. My husband seemed to lose interest. He started coming home late, claiming he had to work overtime, instead of coming home early for our efforts. We had agreed to avoid drinking alcohol, but he soon broke that promise too. On top of that, he seemed to think there was no point in trying if I couldn't get pregnant, so our intimacy decreased significantly. It became an environment where having a child was impossible, creating a vicious cycle. Still, I couldn't give up on having a child. I decided to do everything I could to prepare my body for pregnancy while waiting for my husband to cooperate again. I started drinking warm drinks every morning to warm my body, taking supplements, exercising moderately, and being careful with my diet. At the clinic, they gave me specific instructions on when to come, saying, "Come after your next period," so I kept up with my appointments alone. Then the doctor said, "I'd like to move to the next stage soon, so could you come with your husband next time?" I wondered if he would come with me. Feeling a bit anxious, I decided to talk to him. "Hey, Ken. The doctor wants to move to the next step and wants us both to come in for a discussion." The next step? The next step is artificial insemination. Your mom is also eager for a grandchild, and I'm getting older. We should follow the doctor's advice and start artificial insemination as soon as possible. Can you come to the hospital with me next time? Do I have to go too? That's such a hassle. Wait, did he just say it's a hassle? All you have to do is listen, while I'm the one undergoing all the procedures and injections. That's so unfair. And couldn't you tell your mom to stop pressuring me about grandchildren? That would help reduce my stress a bit. Anger welled up inside me, and I wasn't sure where to start. I stayed silent with a frown on my face. Noticing my reaction, my husband tried to calm me down. I was just joking, don't get mad. I'll think about the dates, okay? But days went by, and he didn't make any plans to go to the hospital. When I asked, "How about this day?" he always found an excuse to avoid it. "Do you really want a child? You seemed so eager before, so why are you suddenly refusing?" Feeling overwhelmed with anxiety, I realized I had to confront him directly. "Hey, are you planning to stop trying for a baby?" He crossed his arms in thought for a moment. "Well, yeah. Honestly, I'm too busy with work right now. I'm sorry, but can we stop trying for a baby for now?" I couldn't stay silent anymore. All the money we've spent on fertility treatments, all the pain I've endured, are we going to waste it all? Are we going to give up so soon? We don't have time to waste. I had so much to say. But I'm already 35. The older I get, the higher the risks for both pregnancy and childbirth. And your mom keeps calling me about having a grandchild. What am I supposed to do? I spoke quickly, my anger spilling over. "Kelly, you're just stressing too much. Ignore my mom. We're stopping this for now." Are we really stopping? After all the effort we've put in? It's not my fault, is it? If you weren't infertile, we'd have kids by now and my mom would be happy. As he started to walk away, I quickly called out, "Wait a minute." He turned around and said, "What's your problem? Are you that frustrated? Why are you so persistent? Oh, I heard there are special services for women now. If you're that frustrated, go there. I won't be mad." With those awful and crude words, he left. Tears of frustration and anger rolled down my cheeks. With him talking like that, I couldn't bring up trying for a baby or children again. So, our attempts to conceive naturally came to an end. My mother-in-law kept calling, asking about grandchildren, but I dodged her questions and made excuses. Eventually, she stopped calling, probably realizing it was hopeless. Between Ken and me, the topic of children became taboo, and we stopped discussing it altogether. Our relationship changed after we stopped trying for a baby. Ken seemed distant and uninterested in me. "Why are you so cold?" I asked him one day, and his response shocked me. "I'm busy with my new job." "Didn't I tell you?" "What? New job? You never told me." "Oh, I guess I only mentioned being busy." I was stunned to learn he had changed jobs without telling me. We had agreed before marriage to keep work and private life separate, so we didn't talk about work at home. But still, I thought he could have at least mentioned it. Yet, being married doesn't mean we have to share everything, and luckily, we didn't have kids. We kept our finances separate, so nothing changed for me personally. So, I decided to let it go. I was curious about where my husband had changed jobs to and whether his salary had changed, but I decided not to ask. I thought it would be better for both of us that way. However, his job change ended up causing an unexpected situation, but I wouldn't realize that until later. A few months passed. One day at work, the head of the HR department approached me. "Isn't this your husband, Kelly?" he asked. "What?" Looking at the resume, I saw a profile of my husband. "That's definitely my husband. It looks like he's been working at the branch for a little while now. Did you introduce him to this company?" "No, not at all. I knew he changed jobs, but I had no idea it was for our company." Different branches, different roles, and I didn't know anyone at Ken's branch. Our company has over 3,000 employees nationwide. It's not unusual to not notice when someone new joins if they're not at the same branch. I happened to find out because of my position, but Ken probably had no idea. I was shocked that such a thing could happen. But thinking about it, it's not surprising that he ended up at our company, as it's one of the larger cosmetics companies in the area where we live. I have some concerns about this person. I couldn't believe my ears. "My husband did that." "Aren't you going to talk to your husband about this?" "For now, let's keep it a secret from the people at his branch. I don't want anyone to act weird around him." "Got it." I asked the HR head to keep my husband's employment a secret. I planned to tell my husband when I got home. Thinking about this, I headed home. When I got home, my husband wasn't back yet. It was 8 p.m. "He's late," I thought as I waited for my husband to come home. Then, I received a message from him. "There's a welcome party tonight, so I'll be late." I figured it couldn't be helped and replied, "Okay." I waited for a while, but he didn't come home, not even after midnight. He finally got back around 4 a.m. I couldn't talk to him about work. The next day and the day after that, he came home late again, and there was no chance to discuss his job. Ever since Ken started at my company, he'd been coming home extremely late. Every day it was overtime, and on weekends he'd say he had business trips and wouldn't come home. Is his branch really that busy? Even when we did see each other at home, he seemed distant. "Have you been busy lately?" "Yeah, but what about dinner?" he responded, almost dismissively. His attitude was somewhat arrogant. When I tried to talk to him, he only gave me vague responses like yeah or oh. So, I couldn't bring up the subject of work. Then, one day, he called me, saying he wanted to talk. I was happy he initiated a conversation for the first time in a while, but judging by his expression, it wasn't going to be a pleasant one. "She's pregnant. I want a divorce." "What?" My mind went blank. "What do you mean?" "I got a girl at my new job pregnant. She's much younger and cuter than you. When I told my mom about her, she was thrilled, saying we'd probably have kids." Is this a joke? Even my mother-in-law knew? Is that why she stopped calling me so persistently? I had suspected something was off with his recent behavior, but I never imagined he was actually having an affair, and had a child with her within less than a year of changing jobs. "When did this start?" "About a month after I joined. She was a new hire, and since I was a mid-career hire, we started at the same time and hit it off. If he had been seeing her for a month after starting, it matched the timing when he told me to stop trying for a baby. I thought it was strange that he suddenly wanted to stop, especially since he had been so eager for kids. I was stunned into silence. Here, this is the divorce paper. Ken thrust the divorce papers at me. All right. Let's get divorced. Well, that's it. His condescending attitude was appalling. Honestly, I just wanted to get away from him as soon as possible. And so, our divorce was finalized without any issues. Our marriage ended so abruptly that it made me question what the past few years had been for. 3 days after the divorce was finalized, I moved out and stayed in a hotel until I found a new place. Ken planned to live with his affair partner in the house we once shared. 2 weeks have passed since then. While my emotional wounds hadn't healed, I found a new place and was ready for a fresh start. That's when our company announced its anniversary party. When I arrived at the venue, it was packed with people, and I wandered around looking for my seat. Then, I spotted a familiar face staring at me with wide eyes. What the hell are you doing here? It was my ex-husband, Ken. Standing next to him was a cute girl in her early 20s with a noticeable baby bump. Who is she? She asked, clutching Ken's sleeve. From her behavior, I immediately knew she was his affair partner. Ken seemed shocked to see me, clearly not realizing we worked at the same company. Oh, I didn't tell you. The company you transferred to is where I work. What? Why didn't you say anything? You didn't tell me about your job change either. You didn't even tell me the name of the company. All you do is argue. It's disgusting that we work at the same company. I thought I was finally rid of you. I'm the one disappointed that we're at the same company. Oh yeah, you should quit. You're single now, right? You can manage on your own without a job. I have a family to support, so I can't quit. Ken was being extra hostile, probably to show off in front of his girlfriend. The girl, joining in, said, "What? Is she a stalker? That's so creepy. Seriously? I was working here first, so if anyone's a stalker, it's Ken." But I held my tongue. Clearly, Ken's girlfriend wasn't very bright. Yeah, it's a shock. I thought I'd never have to see your face again. Good thing we're in different branches. I can't afford to have weird rumors spread about me. I didn't want to see your face either. And if there are any rumors, they're your fault. Ken scowled, clearly irritated that I hit a nerve. How's the infertility treatment going? Oh wait, there's no point now since you don't have a husband. Ken told me his ex-wife was an infertile old hag. The two of them started laughing at me. They seemed completely oblivious to their own situation. I sighed and asked, "So, how's everything going for you?" "What do you mean, work or personal life?" "As you can see, everything's great, unlike you," Ken said, giving me a smug look. "Oh Ken, you're so cool," his dim-witted girlfriend squealed. They were a perfect match, living in their own delusional world. I couldn't believe I had been married to this man and lost to this woman. It was pathetic. Really? Everything's great? Well, you might not be saying that next month, I said with a knowing smile. Ken looked startled by my expression. What do you mean by that? Well, it's my turn next, I said, ignoring his confused look as I stood up and walked towards the stage. As I approached, the MC announced, "Next, we'll hear from our executive officer, Kelly Smith." I took the microphone and began my speech. Ken and his girlfriend stood there in shock, staring at me. When he realized I was an executive officer at the company, my ex-husband went into a complete panic. Even from a distance, I could see him mouthing, "Oh no, and this is bad. I've been an executive officer here for 6 months. Thanks to everyone's support, our company celebrates its 30th anniversary this year." I finished reading the prepared speech, completing my role for the day. Now, it was time for my payback. As soon as I stepped down, Ken rushed over to me, with his affair partner following closely behind. "You're an executive?" "Yes, I am. I was promoted 6 months ago. The HR announcement was made, but I guess you didn't read it?" "That's impossible." I just joined and haven't been transferred, so I didn't look at any HR announcements. He didn't bother to look at the HR announcements because he wasn't expecting a transfer. Not even knowing the names of the company's executives. It's pathetic. Well, you should start reading them from now on. You're being transferred. What? He looked at me, dumbfounded. Shortly after you joined, complaints about you started piling up. Many staff members at your branch have complained about you. What do you mean? Ken started stuttering, clearly realizing what he had done. Let me read some of the complaints. Let's see. He makes a lot of creepy, harassing comments. He touched my butt, pretending it was a joke. He goes out with female employees under the pretense of work meetings and doesn't return. He spends large amounts of money at nightclubs and tries to expense it. He pushes hard tasks onto others. His attitude is condescending, and so on. The list is endless. I read aloud from my phone, which had the details I received from the HR head. As he listened to the list of complaints, my ex-husband turned pale and started trembling. With all this information, I have no choice but to consider your punishment, right? Well, what? Ken, you did all that? His affair partner, who seemed clueless, looked shocked. Ken, trying to come up with excuses, stammered, well, that's why you're being transferred. Next month, you'll be working at our branch in South Korea. South Korea? This can't be happening. They were both visibly shaken by the news of the overseas transfer. Our South Korea branch is relatively new and involves a lot of hard work. Most of the staff there are locals, so without some proficiency in Korean, it would be difficult to communicate. Everyone at the company knows this. But given that Ken didn't even bother to know the names of the executives, it's doubtful he knew about this either. It's essentially a demotion. However, if he works hard and proves himself, there's a chance for promotion. It's high risk, high reward. But for Ken, who has a baby on the way, it's a tough situation. It's true. Work hard over there. Please, we were married. You're an executive, right? Can't you do something? With your power, you can change this. Please, I'm begging you. I'll apologize for everything. You know we're having a baby. Please, forgive Ken. I can't raise the child alone. Contrary to their earlier arrogance, both Ken and his affair partner were now pleading with tears in their eyes. But no amount of apologizing would make me forgive them. Had they not treated me so horribly today, I might have reconsidered for the sake of their child. But after their behavior, I was resolved not to change my decision. I've thought about this a lot. Ken betrayed me, and I wasn't sure if I should forgive him. But considering the child, I wanted to find a different solution. But now, you've made my decision easy. Thanks for helping me make up my mind. This can't be happening. Ken collapsed, unable to stand any longer. Ignoring their pleas, I walked away. Eventually, the announcement of Ken's transfer to the South Korea branch was made official. Ken struggled with the decision but ultimately decided to resign. He couldn't leave his new wife and unborn child behind. So, despite his recent job change, Ken ended up quitting and becoming unemployed. He moved into a shabby house and took on multiple part-time jobs to make ends meet. As for me, my work is my new love. While I hope to find romance again someday, I don't see that happening anytime soon. But for now, I enjoy being immersed in my work.